Hey, what's going on YouTube? It's your man Soul. Welcome back to the channel. You know what it is when you click. And today I'm starting something a little new. As you can probably tell by the title of this video, it's going to be called BloodForged, where it's kind of like, it's like a take on RuneForged, right? But just for blood DKs, where I take specific abilities, talent points, stats maybe, whatever have you, things to help blood DKs. I'll explain them, explain the optimal uses, so on and so forth. And today we are doing Unholy Frenzy. So without further ado, let's jump on in. So first things first, what is Unholy Frenzy? Well, it's a talent deep within the blood tree here that is kind of like power infusion for our physical DPS, where you can target a friendly unit and give them a buff for 30 seconds, increasing their physical damage done by 20% at the cost of 1% of their maximum health for the duration of the buff. So it's a really important talent to put on physical DPS because you can drastically increase the output of your raid group by buffing one of your premier physical damage dealers. So as I mentioned before, Unholy Frenzy is very similar to Power Infusion, but also like Power Infusion, it does have certain negative interactions with buffs. So like Power Infusion can't be used on a mage with arcane power active. Unholy Frenzy doesn't work well with all cooldowns. So it's important to know before you buff someone who can and can't make the most of Unholy Frenzy. So things like Avenging Wrath, Death Wish, Wrecking Crew will not stack with Unholy Frenzy. So you have to be aware of who you're buffing, because once you buff Unholy Frenzy, it will either negate the buff or remove the other ability entirely. So you want to make sure you're not, automatically ripping someone up when it comes to their cooldowns. Well, this probably brings you to the biggest question of them all, and who should get Unholy Frenzy? So we're going to answer it right here. And I think at the top of that list, taking the first place, is the Pharaoh Druid. Because the Pharaoh Druid not only does 100% of its damage as physical, meaning everything it does will be buffed by Unholy Frenzy. Pharaoh Druids don't have any cooldowns that negatively impact Unholy Frenzy. So Savage Roar, Berserk, Tiger's Fury, all that stuff stacks with Unholy Frenzy. So you don't have to worry about removing or disabling a Pharaoh Druid's cooldown. So make sure if you have a Pharaoh Druid in group, he or she should be first in line for getting Unholy Frenzy. Next on that list, in my opinion, probably goes to the Fury Warrior, because just like the Pharaoh Druid, 100% of the Fury Warrior's damage is going to be physical, so it's going to be buffed by Unholy Frenzy. Now, I did previously state that Death Wish and Unholy Frenzy don't stack, so you can't have both at the same time. However, with a little bit of communication, you can make both work. Like if you Unholy Frenzy the Fury Warrior during heroism and allow the warrior to save Death Wish for something later, that works, or vice versa, however you want to do it. Just make sure you can plan around it. But other than that, a Fury Warrior is a great candidate for Unholy Frenzy. And the list is finished out with Combat Rogue. Now, Combat Rogue is easier to apply Unholy Frenzy to than a Fury Warrior is, because Combat also doesn't have any conflicting cooldowns. Like you can use Adrenaline Rush, you can use Blade Flurry, you can use whatever you want with Combat and still have Unholy Frenzy. So it's a lot easier to apply than the Fury Warrior. The only issue is that there's a portion of Combat's DPS that comes from poisons, and that poison will not be buffed by Unholy Frenzy. So take it with a grain of salt. You can have the Fury Warrior who uses 100% of the cooldown, or you can use the Combat Rogue who might use, let's say, 90% of the cooldown. But all in all, Combat's a great choice as well. There's even a pretty good way to track how much damage Unholy Frenzy is contributing. If you go into Warcraft logs, you can see exactly how much damage Unholy Frenzy is buffing. And this actually is a change that they did in Phase 3, because in Phase 2, it kind of showed up the same way that Tricks of the Trade does. But now Unholy Frenzy shows up as the blood DK's damage. However, when you click on it and you click the drop down arrow, you can see who the person was who got it and which abilities was buffed and how much damage they contributed with Unholy Frenzy. It's a very, very good tool. I'm glad that Warcraft Logs updated this interface with Unholy Frenzy, because it makes it so much easier to track the usage of Unholy Frenzy. And that's it for the video, guys. If you learned something new or you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like, comment, and consider subscribing. It helps the channel grow greatly as we make it down the road to 1K. But that's really it. You guys know the drill. You've been great. I've been Soul, and I'm out. Peace.